how to cultivate awareness and focus. In this one, I'm going to be giving you some habits that are very useful for developing focus and awareness. And I'm going to be addressing a lot of the underlying emotions that are driving your distracted behavior. And I'm going to be giving you some tips for how to actually investigate these emotions. So right off the bat, I have quite a bit of things I want to say about cultivating awareness and focus, and this is not actually a very easy thing. The world we live in is so loaded with distraction everywhere we go. Right now you're on YouTube, you can click off the video and watch funny cat videos for, for an hour, or scroll on Instagram or text a million people and eat junk food and whatever. So the world we live in is absolutely loaded with distraction. And I really want you to notice that cultivating awareness and focus is actually a skill that has to be worked on. Just like playing the piano, for example, you actually have to buy a piano, play it, learn it, like study it, and you have to actively do it to develop some skills in, piano playing. It's the same thing for cultivating awareness and focus. It's a skill that needs to be learned and practiced. And I also want you to know that you are basically constantly stuck in distractions. I want you to notice how much stuff you actually do that is a distraction, like eating when you're bored, or scrolling on Instagram, or checking the email too much, whatever it is, watching too much TV. I want you to really become aware and see the world around you through this lens of distraction. That there is basically a lot of crap that is constantly attempting to hook your attention and get you addicted to it. YouTube, Instagram, email, food, things like this. And I want you to notice how your energy actually follows your attention. And what I mean by energy is basically sort of like your almost like life currency, really. Where you put your attention, your energy will actually follow that as well. So many distractions are actually just designed to leech your energy. They're designed to leech your attention. And you can literally think of it like a leech on you that's sucking your blood. And if there's a leech on you and it's sucking your blood, it's kind of a no-brainer. You want to take it off. You don't really want a leech on you. I mean, most likely, you don't really want a leech on you. But the thing about modern day distractions is that they do not identify themselves as a leech. They are simply there. We find ourselves very addicted to these foods, TV, whatever, internet-related stuff, social media. And we don't really identify this stuff as distractions and bullshit. We identify it more as like harmless or fun or entertaining. But really, this stuff, from a certain point of view, is a leech. And this leech is not only sucking your energy, but it's also convincing you that this is fun, like this is good, and that this is pleasurable. But really, what a lot of this stuff is doing is it's disconnecting you from life, disconnecting you from yourself, your feelings, your thoughts, your authenticity, what you truly want and care about, your core values, developing good habits, growing yourself, transforming yourself, developing great relationships, noticing emotional issues. It's distracting yourself from all of that and instead keeping your attention hooked on the latest episode of whatever sitcom or whatever, or the latest Instagram post or whatever. Now, this is not an easy thing to really break yourself out of. This is going to take time and a lot of dedication, actually, to really become focused, cultivate awareness, and be less distracted. I'm going to have multiple videos on this in the future because this is a really deep topic, and attention spans are basically getting shorter and shorter nowadays, especially with stuff like TikTok. People just get bored and they scroll, they get bored and they scroll, bored and scroll, and it just creates this conditioning of like continuously being dissatisfied with life in every moment. Because the second you don't like it, you just try and get something new, and then it's only a matter of time before that bores you, and then you do something else, and then you want another thing, you want another thing, you want another thing, and you're just on this treadmill of emotional dysfunction and delusion. So I want you to notice how everything is trying to get your attention. Obvious things are like advertisements. When you're driving down the street and you see a billboard, obviously they're trying to hook your attention, But I want you to really notice how much stuff around you is just trying to hook your attention. The people around you want your attention. The internet wants your attention. I want your attention. And you have to be selective and very wise, actually, with what you give your attention and your energy to. And remember, your energy follows your attention. If you are distracted and giving your attention to cookies and social media and video games and TV and stuff like this, your energy, your life force, your life currency is going to follow that. And we only have a limited amount of resources and really life energy. We don't last forever. So we want to invest our resources wisely. We don't want to invest it in garbage. So notice that YouTube, social media, your phone, Netflix, entertainment, etc., advertising, are all trying to get your attention. So we live in a world where everyone is basically addicted to something and numbing themselves and disconnecting themselves from their life through various distractions. I want you to notice that a lot of these distractions you actually have subtle addictions to, that to just give up all the things that distract you isn't as easy as you might think it is. It's actually fairly difficult. Things like checking your email 4 times a day when there's no point, or scrolling on Instagram for an hour a day. These things hold an emotional place inside of you, and these emotions pull you to continuously play out this pattern of behavior. And I really want to emphasize the importance of addressing our underlying emotions. This is not a girly thing, nor is this really, it's not like a hidden thing, to be honest. When you get distracted, you can actually notice what emotions are pulling you, like boredom, frustration, anger, anxiety, fear, things like that. So I also want to say that addressing your emotions and becoming more aware of this kind of stuff can make you feel unsafe, because we are changing your mind. And your mind wants to remain the same. Your mind wants to maintain itself because really it wants to survive in its current form. And change, whether it's positive or negative, is usually interpreted as a threat to your current system. So really, we're going to be questioning a lot of why you do the things that you do, and we want to be very honest, sincere, and direct about this. We don't want to fill up ourselves with fluff or idealism, and we also don't want to guilt and shame ourselves as though we are like sinners or something. I just want to notice a lot of the emotions that drive unfocused and distracted behavior, help you to install habits in your life to become more aware of this stuff and cultivate a deeper sense of focus and connection to life, and teach you a little bit more about how to actually investigate these emotions. So right off the bat, let's look at habits. So I wrote down mindfulness because this is probably one of the most important things you can probably do for yourself. So this is about staying present in the moment and watching and actively feeling your emotions, watching your thoughts, really observing yourself and studying yourself without judgment. So you want to really just connect yourself. You want to give yourself attention. You want to just bring your attention to what's happening inside of you within your subjective experience, your feelings, your thoughts, your body tension, your sense of uneasiness in the present moment, your anxiety, your physical sensations in your body. You want to bring awareness into your body. Yeah. You want to do that. That's important. And you want to do this stuff without judgment. So you can practice through meditation. That's probably a great place to start. Try and do 1 minute a day, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15. Focus on your breath. Just bring awareness into your body. Notice how distracted you get by sounds, thoughts. Notice how you're giving your life to the first thought that arises in your head. A thought arises and you immediately act on it. Notice how you give your life to the first thing that grabs your attention in your environment. Your phone goes off, you're immediately going to it. And there's nothing wrong with picking up your phone, but I want you to notice how easy it is for your attention to just be scattered. That's really important. Another big one is noticing distractions. I have a lot of stuff to say about this. I have a whole new video actually on distractions coming out soon, maybe within the next month. So right off the bat, with distractions, I want you to really be honest about what is distracting you. And I want you to notice things like phones or things like that are really like, what is the top 3 things that distract you? And you have to identify them. So phone, Netflix, TV, junk food, things like that. Moving on, another important thing is to actually write down the things that distract you. So actually get like a journal or a piece of paper or something and write down the top things that distract you. And later on, if you're comfortable with it, you can even write down how you feel when you are being distracted. Like what emotion pulled you to get distracted, like boredom, anger, frustration. And if you watch yourself, you can notice that it's typically one of these kinds of emotions that is driving you to just distract yourself in some mindless way. So it's important to get a clear idea about our personal emotional patterns that are driving our behavior. And another good one is noticing what triggers you to get distracted, whether it's certain people in your life, of course, social media, your phone, things like that. And by getting clear about what it is that distracts you, how you feel when you're being distracted, just to have that image in your mind, just to have that model is already very clarifying, because this very clearly points out what we have to change, what we have to become more aware of, and what we have to stop avoiding in our life. Moving on, we can prioritize the tasks in our life, tasks that mean something to us. So make a list of the most important things to you, whether it's playing the piano, singing, weightlifting, meditating, reading, making videos, whatever it is, and actually focus on the task. As almost basic as that is, this is very important. Actually become clear about what matters to you. Write down some healthy habits and really slowly begin to implement them. Slowly, change happens slowly. But it's important to do one task at a time as well. You don't want to multitask. Multitasking is basically scattered focus. You're not really focused. You're jumping all over the place. You can't really do your best with something if you aren't giving it your full, undivided attention. And really, multitasking is just scattered brain, really. You might think that you're doing well, but really, you're not. If you give something your full undivided focus, you can enter a state of flow and connection with the thing that you're doing. Whereas if you're giving it 5 seconds here, 5 seconds there, 5 seconds there, you can't really come into a sense of harmony with the thing that you're actually working on, which is actually when you produce your best work and you get into a very pleasurable state. Another important one is rest. You definitely need the rest that your body needs. So yeah, stretching is important. Go for a walk, sit down, literally just sit down and breathe, sleep well, get enough sleep, things like that. That's fairly simple. Make sure that you don't push yourself in ways that make your body uncomfortable. If you are pushing yourself and you feel deeply uncomfortable in your body, sit down and rest. That's your body saying you actually have to just rest. We need a lot of rest as humans. We actually don't value rest enough as a culture, really, or at least where I live. I live in Canada. We value productivity a lot, and productivity is great. I love productivity, but humans need a lot of rest, and we don't emphasize the importance of rest. Because if we aren't rested, we're not clear. If we're emotionally distressed, we can't do our best work. If we're unfocused and unclear, we can't do our best work. If we aren't addressing a lot of the underlying emotions that drive a lot of our lower quality behavior, we can't do our best work. So practicing self-discipline is really good. So practice setting goals and then actually just acting on them. A lot of this has to do with just acting on it. So actually like set the goal, whatever it is. Go for a run for 15 minutes. Set the goal and then actually act on it. I know that that might not be, like that might be too simple, it might sound way too simple, but slowly you want to get to the point where you can implement a habit and continuously do it and it feels natural. It feels like a part of who you actually are. So if you are completely unable to do a run for 10 minutes, do a run for 2 minutes. And basically you want to not overwhelm yourself with something massive, but you want to get to the point where you can do the thing and it's just pushing you. It's pushing you just enough so you can grow while at the same time not feel completely insecure and uncomfortable. So it's important to actually just set the goal and just follow through on it. Like you are actually going to have to get up and do the thing. That's kind of, it has to be emphasized that at one point there's not going to be any more videos to watch or anything like that. You just have to actually do it. Moving on to technology. This one is really big, but before that, I'm going to go back to prioritize very quickly because I have one more thing I want to say. So when you have a clear idea of what needs to get done, it's actually very easy to avoid distractions. So you want to get clear, like actually journal about what matters to you in life, like what actually matters to you, and set habits that are associated with those things. Now, going back to technology is probably one of your biggest distractions, but you can also use it to keep you clear about how much you're actually using it. So download something like productivity apps that time how much you use an app and then block it after a certain amount of time. So if you're on Instagram too much, you can download an app that blocks it after like 15 minutes. That might be very important. And you can just experiment with that, those kinds of apps. And I also want to emphasize how important it actually is to be in an environment that helps you. So if you're in an environment loaded with technology, for example, you have like computers and phones and stuff like that, you might find it difficult to get work done and to actually stay focused because this kind of stuff is just pulling at your attention and you might not have the sort of strength really to just remain focused. So it's important to clean up your environment and set it up in a way so that you can actually focus. Now moving on to the emotional end of the spectrum. A lot of distractions are caused by underlying emotions, like I said earlier. So understanding the emotions behind distractions is absolutely essential for removing distraction at the root level, because this is an emotional thing. Our distractions and our addictions actually hold an emotional place inside of us that is actually stored inside of us. And it's really important to figure out ways to get clear about the emotions that are there and actively investigate and feel them and know what's happening inside of us in an intentional way. Like you intentionally investigate what's happening inside of you. You actually set aside time to do that. So I'm going to talk about boredom because this one is probably one of the biggest when it comes to distraction. And really, this just involves how our mind wanders and how a wandering mind is it's just insanely easy for it to just get distracted because it's already in a mild state of distraction. It's just wandering from thought to thought, here to there, kind of unclear, unsharp, a little bit dull. So obviously when chocolate muffins and cupcakes and Instagram and the phone goes off and your friend's talking to you, obviously all this stuff can hook your attention like that because it's so instantly stimulating, but it's only stimulating for so long, and then it kind of leaves you a little bit lower afterwards. So our mind wandering is something that we actually need to take very seriously and investigate. And the next one is fear. This is a very interesting one. So fear and forms of anxiety can basically get our mind to become very restless and make us in a somewhat, or create a somewhat agitated state inside of us, which drives us to eat a bunch of food. A lot of people have eating disorders because they might be anxious, things like that. Or it might make you run off to Instagram to just distract yourself from that feeling. I want you to notice that you run away from these feelings. You distract yourself from these feelings. You avoid these parts of yourself. And whether you avoid them or not, really they're there. Like, if you avoid them, they're still pulling your strings. They're still influencing your decisions. You might think that the things you're doing are coming from this sense of power and control and free will. Like, I thought that I should check Instagram, so I went and did it. But really, something like boredom or anxiety is what's really pulling your strings. And you, at least I, don't want to live the rest of my life having stuff like that happen. It's really a limitation on your personal freedom. The next one is forms of anger, like frustration, for example. And this can obviously make it difficult to focus on any task at hand. Really, boredom and anger are somewhat similar. Boredom is like, there's a frustrated quality to boredom. Like, this isn't enough and, wanting more, but there's a slight bit of frustration within boredom. It's almost like a subtle form of anger. And you can figure that out just by continuously investigating your boredom. There's a sense of like, oh, I'm so bored. There's a sense of dissatisfaction with the moment, with life really, and a sense of just frustration, really. So a lack of motivation is really interesting. And when we are distracted by phones, technology, junk food, stuff like that, we obviously get very stimulated very fast. And this stimulation can cause us to not actually feel very motivated afterwards because we got our pleasure from, let's say, a muffin or Instagram or YouTube or porn and video games. So when we get our pleasure from these kinds of sources, we feel less of a need to go out in the actual world and do something, or not even just go outside and do something in this sort of brute force way, but we feel less of a drive to investigate ourselves, to feel what's happening, to actually care about what's happening inside of us emotionally and get clear, like really get clear about it. This is a very difficult thing to do that practically no one does. No one sets aside time to investigate what's happening inside of them because what's going on inside of them is a hell of a lot to handle, and is really to do that is very courageous. Really, lack of motivation is very common. Even though we value productivity as a culture, at least mine does, I live in Canada, so productivity is very deeply valued, but for the most part, people are rather dull and kind of numb because of all of the distraction, and this helps to create the underlying sense of being unmotivated and not really caring about genuinely being productive and working towards something that really matters to you long term. And I mean something that really matters to you. Like, what are your core values in life? What do you actually want out of your only life? And like sitting with that, thinking about it, feeling into your body, writing, setting aside time to actually figure that out every day, meditating, and like actively investigating that question. Another good one is loneliness. This is another big one that causes our mind to wander and our attention to wander. And it's a big reason for why people go on social media. People go on it to connect, and if they feel lonely, they can just go on social media and they can get this sort of pseudo connection. It's not really deep connection that really develops skills really in any way or a sense of competency in life. It's more just a quick hit of stimulation, and then you kind of feel like crap again after. So in general, unresolved feelings are probably the biggest reason for why we get distracted. So this involves feelings like sadness, guilt, regret, things like that cause our mind to wander and basically make us seek distractions instead of becoming aware of these feelings. So a lot of our more lower quality emotions, not lower quality, but I guess more unpleasant emotions like fear, anger, all the stuff I got on the board right there in red, a lot of stuff like that is really the byproduct of a lot of our unresolved feelings, repressed emotions, things like that. Because at one point when we were very young, we didn't actually know how to handle sadness or anger or fear, or anxiety or shame or guilt or whatever. And a lot of these emotions are very overwhelming to young kids. And we simply are unable at that time to handle them effectively, to really feel them, to not repress them or fight them or push or pull on them. So they just get repressed. So I'm just going to say a little quick paragraph. By being aware of the emotions that may be contributing to your distractions, you can take steps to address them. For example, if boredom is causing you to be distracted, try to find ways to make the task more interesting or challenging. Sometimes if you're doing something that is mundane and repetitive and you don't want to do it and you're bored, that might be a good sign that really that's not what you're supposed to be doing, that you're wasting your life doing something mundane and repetitive and pointless, something that doesn't actually fuel you and make you have a deep sense of connection to life. So if fear and anxiety are causing distractions, I recommend practicing meditation, like mindfulness meditation, things like relaxation techniques to reduce stress. And this doesn't involve pushing away an emotion. I want to make this clear that when we, and I'm going to be getting into active feeling and actively investigating emotions, when we actively investigate emotion, this has nothing to do with removing the emotion, but it has to do with coming into contact with what is presently happening and feeling it, observing it, and just remaining with it. Just staying with it and actually giving ourselves the necessary attention and overall self-compassion and love that is necessary to really begin to heal these parts of ourselves and feel more connected to ourselves instead of struggling so much against ourselves, being so tense in our bodies, having our gut be so tense, jaw, shoulders, things like that. A good thing for you to do would be to, of course, journal. That one is really big, and meditate, but also actually talk to a therapist. There's a lot of shame around going to therapy within most cultures because the idea that, I have to go to therapy, it has this sort of emotional tone behind it that's like, people who go to therapy are like messed up and broken. But really, when you read high quality psychotherapy books or you talk to a very good psychotherapist, these people are very intelligent people and they know that practically everyone needs psychotherapy. It's not like a specific set of broken people who are stupid and are like depressed, need therapy. Actually, practically everyone is walking around with very large degrees of repressed emotion that is really driving a lot of their behavior. So I'm going to get into actively feeling, or just active feeling. And I want to mention that I've already made a video on this. I think it's called like what is active feeling? Something like that. And it's about 45 minutes to an hour long. And I go into depth on what active feeling is. So you're going to want to watch that because I'm only going to do a quick summary here. I run through a quick exercise in that video and I go into a lot of depth about what active feeling is. So right off the bat, obviously mindfulness. I'm not going to talk about it again. I've said it enough times. That one's really important. Labeling your emotions. So let's say anger comes up. Actually state to yourself, I am angry. Like, you don't have to You just want to observe what's happening. Like if you just make an observation, if you're angry, okay, there's anger, or sadness, sadness, or loneliness, loneliness. If loneliness is pulling you to go on social media, just state to yourself in an honest and clear way, loneliness is driving me to go on social media. That's it. That's literally it. We just want to become clear about what's happening when we are labeling our emotions. Allow yourself to feel your emotions and actually embrace them. So rather than trying to push away or suppress your emotions, you have to allow yourself to fully experience them, even when they're uncomfortable. Because our uncomfortable emotions, we like to run away from and avoid, because at one point, like I said, when we were children, we didn't know how to handle it, and we ran away from them, we avoided them. They overwhelmed us, we got scared. And this pattern of avoiding ourselves just got worse and worse and worse. It snowballed, and actually that pattern is still inside of you right now, I bet. Unless you're some kind of like master at this, and you've practiced for a long time. There's a very immature habit in you of just running away from sensations in your body, from an emotion in your body, because at some level you think it's dangerous and unsafe. Because you made that distinction and you had that belief when you were a child, and it hasn't went anywhere. That instinctual pattern of avoiding, that belief that this is bad or negative or dangerous, and that overall disgust for what's happening, and you're like, oh, I don't like lonely, I don't like feeling lonely, I don't like feeling sad, I don't like feeling guilt, shame, grief, whatever. That just hasn't went anywhere. And that's a very immature take on your emotions. And it's really just a byproduct of being a scared kid at one point in your life and just being overwhelmed. And there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong. There's no shame in any of that. The only problem is when you don't be honest about what's actually going on inside of you. You avoid it, you distract yourself. This is when you will have a lot of emotional problems that are going to affect every area of your life, your career, your focus, your happiness, your relationships, things like this. So instead of pushing or pulling on them, allow yourself to fully experience them and be immersed in the experience. And you might be avoiding them, or you probably are avoiding them, because there's some kind of background belief that says that if I feel this feeling, something bad will happen, or like this is dangerous. And we want to actually see if feeling anxiety is dangerous. Like actively feel the physical sensations in your body that you associate with anxiety, or stress, or anger, fear, things like this, boredom, loneliness, sadness, guilt, shame. Actively feel them and notice that it's not dangerous to feel this way, and that they don't come, like they come and go. Like you're not gonna lose your mind and go into, I don't know, an asylum because you felt your loneliness, and you're not gonna explode and die because you felt your anxiety. You're just gonna sit there, you're gonna feel it, and then a lot of these parts of yourself that you've been avoiding are just going to be clearer to you over time. Like I said, this is like a skill to develop, and you have to continuously return to this. So embracing your emotions is really important, and it's really completely essential. There's no way around this one other than the active embrace and active feeling of emotion. So we have mindfulness, label, acceptance. Now moving on to reflect. This one can involve journaling, and it can really, I recommend noticing when you get triggered. Not just like angry triggered, but what drives you to get distracted? What drives you to lose your focus and your clarity? Or, like what's behind that? Is it, lack of motivation? Is it whatever? Any of these? And to really reflect on them, like actually contemplate it, sit there, actually feel it, and notice the things in your environment that also brought that out of you. And don't blame the thing in your environment, like the person you're with or whatever. Let's say you get angry at the person you're with. Notice that, okay, I don't know what your situation is, by the way, but notice that a lot of these triggers exist inside you. It's your emotional system, okay? Like, maybe you shouldn't be with the person, maybe you should. I cannot help you with that. I don't know what your personal situation is. I don't know what's going on in your life. But I want you to notice that you have very unconscious reactions to certain things in your environment, and that these things bring out these parts of yourself that need to be observed. And this is not an excuse for staying with like an abusive partner or being in some kind of toxic environment. No. If the environment sucks, like, you have to leave. If your partner's abusive, you should probably try and get out of there. But I want you just to notice that things in your environment, people, places, objects, certain things like that, bring things out of you and make you go reactive and unconscious. And it's important to actively investigate, what's going on in those moments, because those are very key moments to really pay attention to yourself. And it's often the moment where we are the most dishonest, the most avoidant, the most unconscious, the most mechanical. And that's exactly why it's the most important to reflect and in that moment actually feel what's going on and wake up out of our reactivity. It's the most important in that moment, because it's all of our internal bullshit is perfectly on display. It couldn't make itself more known in that moment that we are full of it. And and that's just exactly what we want. We want to notice what's going on inside of us. We want to, become more aware of that. We want to dig that stuff out. We want to come into contact with it and really, in a sense, release it. Release ourselves of these kinds of patterns. Another good one is sharing your emotions with someone that you trust. This one's very important. Having an open emotional discussion with another human being is insanely valuable. And I know a lot of men don't value this. Women value this a lot more. But being able to just be open and intimate with someone, intimate doesn't necessarily mean sexual. It just means connected to another human and openly discuss how you feel. This is very important and can actually create a sense of connection between you and another person, which can be very refreshing, very enlivening, and very clarifying. It can give you a lot of important information. But you have to make sure that the person that you're actually talking to is acting with integrity. They're not imposing beliefs on you. They're not shaming you. They're open. The way that they relate to you is more like an open presence. Like, they aren't pushing you to do a certain thing or behave a certain way, but they actually attune to your feelings, what you need, what you mean by what you say, things like this. They can actually listen to you properly, and they actively listen. I'm going to have a video on what is actively listening in the future. But for now, that's it for this video. If you guys have any questions at all, let me know in the comment section below. And other than that, take it easy.